But one important thing about Mars is that Mars energies has not to be underestimated or try to be overutilized, because if we try to rush into things, rush into action because a certain time period is upon us, then we may need to backtrack later, or we may be unsure of the action that we have taken. Hello, namaskar and adab to all my friends from your friend astrologer and guide Irfan, once more with you from your very own channel Astro Assurance. When we look at transits of the large bodies, especially the large and the slower moving bodies like Jupiter or Saturn, or the other two bodies Rahu and Ketu, these are really slow moving entities. So we need to look at their transits holistically over the period of the entire transit. For Rahu and Ketu 18 months each, for Jupiter entire year, and for Saturn the 2.5 years. When we look at the transits of the faster moving planets such as the Mercury, Venus or Mars or Sun, then we need to be a little careful, because these transits are very fast and they get over before we are ready to even act. And so it's important when we are looking at transits, we look at the transits keeping in mind what is the duration of the transit, because that duration is the only time that we get to act on the transit. Now, the unusual thing about Mars transit is that every 2 years it goes into a long retrograde motion. Same thing Mars is going to do this year as well, where Mars is just entered Taurus a day back, and then it is going to remain in Taurus till October, mid-October, when it is going to move into Gemini. Then Mars is going to retrograde back from Gemini back into Taurus mid-November, and then it is going to remain there till mid-March. So the transit of Mars, this particular transit is an important one. It is going to act in phases. First, now it has gone into Taurus, it will remain there roughly for till mid-October. So we know that roughly about 2 months of Mars transit into Taurus we have got. So we need to use that to our advantage. But one important thing about Mars is that Mars energies has not to be underestimated or try to be overutilized, because if we try to rush into things, rush into action because a certain time period is upon us, then we may need to backtrack later, or we may be unsure of the action that we have taken. Or sometimes if we take too much time to act, before we even get a chance to act, the transit has gone from in front of us. So Mars transits, especially because Mars is also the general who likes to rush into things, it is a tough transit if you don't comprehend well. However, if you understand the transit of Mars well, then this can create a good opportunity, especially now that it's a long transit, an opportunity which could even change the next trajectory of your life, moving towards a trajectory from where we can only get prosperity or abundance, or maybe even take a step back. So let's jump into understanding how this particular transit of Mars into the sign of Taurus acts out for the different ascendants from Aries until Pisces. However, before that, it's important that we need to understand that when we look into transits, we also need to look into transits of not only the planet that we're discussing, but also the relative transits which are happening at the same time. So if you're not looking into the relative transits of the other planets and what are the aspects on the planet that we're talking about, here we're talking about Mars, and the aspect that Mars throws on the other planets during the transit that we are predicting or we're analyzing, then we miss out on the important manifestation of the planet. So we will be looking at it holistically, looking at not only its placement but its rulership of houses, as well as what are the current aspects on which houses other planets are playing out and getting into the fray along with Mars. Now we know that Mars has already transited into Taurus a day before on 11th of August, and Mars for Aries ascendant natives rules the Lagna as well as the 8th house. So Mars moving into Taurus creates an opportunity to be able to get better results of your status in society, your standing in society, as well as from inheritance, because Mars rules the 8th house, and it also gives you a chance of earning from the areas of the 8th house, which could be research, manufacturing, those people who are in armed services, taxation, audits, shared property, and so on. So this is a good opportunity for an Aries ascendant native to really put their best foot forward. However, Mars transiting into Taurus means Mars will be aspecting your 5th house. So Mars will be creating opportunities of a change in your career as well, because Mars aspecting the 5th house means the 5th house is the 8th to the 10th house. So here it is creating an opportunity for a career change or relooking at the current career that you are in. This is also important because not only does Mars aspect the 5th house, but even Rahu is aspecting the 5th house and creating those opportunities. So keep this in mind, and any career change opportunity that comes back to you, be careful of how you take the decision, because the Rahu is playing a hand in the decision making. Then from the 2nd house, Rahu, or the second sign of for Aries ascendant native, from the 2nd house Mars also aspects its own sign in the 8th house. So this is a good placement for Mars aspecting the 8th house, its own sign, because it is creating opportunities of getting money remuneration from the 8th house areas, as I just stress upon. However, the good thing for this placement is that this is also under the aspect of Jupiter from the 12th house. So both Mars and Jupiter are creating opportunities of gaining from shared property and gaining from the areas connected to the 8th house. So those people who are planning to invest in or get better gains from shared property, or expecting inheritance, or trying to move ahead in careers related to the 8th house, this is a good period for them. Mars also aspects the 9th house, and the other aspect on the 9th house is also that of Rahu. So here Mars will create an opportunity of moving into those universities or educational universities where you can get higher qualification. However, because Rahu also aspects the 9th house, it creates opportunities of moving to foreign lands or getting into those kind of education qualifications which are a little unusual, or maybe even breakthrough or new. And it gives an opportunity for you to also work abroad and then maybe move abroad later also, because Jupiter is placed in the 12th house, and so it's creating these opportunities for you. Now for Taurus ascendant natives, Mars has moved into the Lagna itself, and Mars moving into the Lagna while it's ruled the 12th house and it ruled the 7th house is an important denotation for Taurus ascendant native. So firstly, Mars moving into the money sign of Taurus while it rules the 12th as well as the 7th house creates opportunities of gaining from the areas of both the 12th house as well as the 7th house. So for some Taurus ascendant natives, it could be a good time for getting into marital contracts, partnerships also. If you have not made a commitment yet, but you're thinking about making a commitment in a relationship, in a partnership, then it's the right time. However, be careful of what documentation you're signing as well, because Rahu is moved into the Mul Trigona sign of Mars. So that denotation may also come about. Mars is also aspecting your 4th house while having moved into your Lagna. So it's creating opportunities of getting acquisitions in real estate or gaining from real estate, repairs at home, something connected to home may also come about. But be a little careful of what decisions you take about which properties you invest in and what expenditures you make, because Rahu is also aspecting the 4th house along with Mars. The placement of Mercury here is not so very important because Mercury is going to move off in its own transit sometime later. However, because Mars also aspects the 7th house, and the 7th house is also under the aspect of Jupiter. So this is an important denotation, especially for women if they're planning to get into a long-term committed relationship. This is a good time for them, but be careful, don't rush into any decision making. Once you are sure that this is the person for you, only then say yes. And because Mars also aspects the 8th house, but the 8th house is also under the aspect of Rahu from the 12th house. So here Mars is creating opportunities of gaining from shared property, from inheritances, from taxation, from audits, and also for higher education, because Mars aspects Sagittarius sign and Rahu is also aspecting the sign. So for some people there could be a good move to use your qualification or high qualification to your advantage, or maybe some learning opportunity may also come upon. For some students, moving into high universities for high qualifications may also come about. So this is a good placement, but be wary that Mars transit into the sign of Taurus is only for a couple of months, and then Mars is going to transit into Gemini in October and then retrograde back into November Taurus, and then it will remain there till March. So different denotations of Mars moving into Taurus are going to come about. So it's a long transit, and this is going to create both good opportunities but maybe also a time where you'll have to think whether to take some decisions or not, especially when Mars goes retrograde. For Gemini ascendant natives, Mars has transited into the sign of Taurus but into your 12th house, which means Mars is creating opportunities for getting monies or higher remuneration from foreign lands, and some of your wishes and desires may come true because Mars also rules the 11th house of wishes and desires and the 6th house of service, and Mars is also aspecting the 6th house of service along with Jupiter also aspecting that. So this is a good opportunity of moving up the career ladder, especially because Jupiter is also placed in the 10th house and is aspecting the 6th house along with Mars. So for some people this could be a good opportunity of moving up ahead in service in your career, especially either connected to foreign lands or armed services or hospitality industry or service industries, or those industries which are connected to the medical profession, pharmaceutical industries or allied industries as well. And because Mars also aspects your 3rd house of hard work, self-enterprise, short journeys, so some short journeys may also come about for people. There may also be some hard work that you need to put in. However, because Mars is in the 12th house, so ensure that you take care of where you are investing your energies, because this Mars placed in the 12th house also means some of your hard work may be dissipated. And this is also important because not only does Mars aspect your 3rd house, but also Rahu is aspecting your 3rd house while placed in the 11th house. So this is important for you to see the overall denotation of both Mars and Rahu aspecting your 3rd house of effort. I don't want that you work hard for the next 2 months while Mars will remain in Taurus, and then it will move into Gemini, in October, and then it will retrograde back from Gemini into Taurus again in November and then remain there till March. So this is a very long transit. Some period, the next 2 months are important for you to take decisions accordingly, and then be a little careful during the phase from October until November when the retrogression period will start, and then be careful from November onwards when the retrogression period will start. From Gemini into Taurus will again start back, when you will have to be careful for the next 3 months until March what decisions you make. However, the next 2 months are a good period for you to take educated decisions, thoughtful decisions, and move ahead in both your career through your hard work, through your self-enterprise also. This is also a good period for businessmen because Mars aspects the 3rd house along with Rahu. However, because Mars also aspects the 7th house, but the 7th house is also aspected by Rahu. For some people, especially those people who are in foreign lands, you may have an opportunity or a situation where you may get into a relationship with somebody who is not from your country of origin, or maybe carrying a foreign passport as well. So be careful, because Rahu also aspects the 7th house, who you are getting into a relationship with or who you are getting into a partnership with, because these have long-term implications for you. For Cancer ascendant natives, Mars has moved into the 11th house in the sign of Taurus while ruling the 10th house as well as ruling in the 5th house. So for Cancer ascendant natives, Mars is the very strong Yoga Karaka. So this is an excellent placement for Cancer ascendant natives. However, you need to take care, especially some aspects that Mars brings in related to some decision making. For example, Mars will be remaining in your Taurus sign for 2 months, and then it is going to move into Gemini in October, and then from October until November it's going to remain in Gemini, then retrograde back into Taurus and then remain there till March next year. So this is a very long transit of Mars into Taurus, then into Gemini, then back again into Taurus. So be little careful what kind of decision making you make, because this can have long-term implications for you. However, for the next 2 months, this is an excellent time. Mars is aspecting with its 4th aspect your 2nd house of income, remuneration. So some of your wishes and desires coming true in the area of higher income, higher remuneration, higher earnings from your work, from your service, and some of your wishes and desires also coming true from there. However, be little careful because Rahu also aspects your 2nd house. So in trying to get a higher income, higher remuneration, higher salary, don't take wrong decisions, but take thought through decisions. Put a lot of thought into any new opportunity that comes by to you. And Mars also aspects your 5th house, which is the 10th, which is the 8th house to the 10th house, creating opportunities of career change. And that's why it's very important when you take any decision related to career, keeping in mind only remuneration, only a salary increase, that could be fraught with some risks. So don't make a move only for the sake of higher earning, higher remuneration, but think deeply before you take a decision, because when Mars retrogrades back from Gemini into Taurus in November, that time you may have to retract your steps. Mars also aspects your 6th house of service, and Rahu also aspects the 6th house of service. So when you take a decision related to any service or any job or moving ahead or making a career change, be careful of the competition that you have to face. If you are sitting for competitive exams, prepare well and don't be overconfident, because Rahu is also aspecting the 6th house, because this could only be to your disadvantage. However, in career change you have a better opportunity, because not only does Mars aspect your 7th house, because not only does Mars aspect your 5th house, but even Jupiter aspects your 5th house, placed in the 9th house. So this could be a good gain bringing placement for you to move up the career, especially through a career change where your remuneration could also increase if you are diligent and if you think through what decision you need to take, especially related to career. This could also be a good time for investments. For some people who are contemplating increasing your family or making an addition to your family, this could also be a good time to conceive a child. Now for Leo ascendant natives, Mars has moved into the 10th house in the sign of Taurus while ruling the 9th house as well as ruling the 4th house. So this is an excellent move of Mars into the Taurus sign, because Taurus is a money sign. So here Mars is creating an opportunity for you to get higher remuneration, higher monies connected to your qualification, and which means use your qualification, use your higher learning to your better advantage. For some students who have been thinking whether or not to make a move, any qualification increment or elevation that you plan now to get a high qualification can be a good move in the future to be able to get the best out of it. For those people who are just completing their higher qualification like masters or PhD, this is a very good time where there could be a move up ahead in the career, because Mars has moved into the 10th house and in the sign of Taurus, which means higher remuneration for you or a start of a better remuneration for you, start of a good career for you. This is also important because Mars, while placed in the 10th house, is also aspecting the Lagna, and not only is Mars aspecting the Lagna, but even Rahu is aspecting the Lagna from the 9th house, which means for some people who have just finished their qualification, they can look at moving up in their career ladder, but not only in their own country but even in foreign lands, because Rahu and Mars both aspecting the Lagna, which means an elevation in the stature of your society through a move up in their career. So this is a good time to look at moving into foreign lands or into foreign companies also, because Mars also aspects the 4th house and Jupiter also aspects the 4th house from the 8th house. So there could be sudden change in your living areas or how you live or where you live, or there could be an opportunity of either change in your location, change in your residence, or also a new house or even purchase of a property for those people who can afford it, because Jupiter is also creating those opportunities. But be careful not to rush into any challenges, issues related to property, because Jupiter is placed in the 8th house, but it is also in a retrograde motion. Because Mars also aspects your 5th house of career change, but Rahu also aspects that, any career change that you bring about now can have long-term implications for you, either for the good or maybe even some challenging areas, especially because Mars will remain in Taurus till 2 months, till mid-October, but it will going to move into the Gemini sign in November and then retrograde back into Taurus in November and remain there till March. So the retrogression period when Mars moves back can be a time where you have to take a few steps back. So those steps that you take now should be diligent steps, thought through steps before you make those decisions. For some people, there may be good time to invest and make monies from foreign opportunities, from foreign lands also, because Rahu also aspects the 5th house. But be careful of where you invest, especially connected to stocks or connected to share market or connected to crypto, because this could be fraught with high risks. So be diligent with risks, be diligent with education, be diligent of what career decisions that you make, because these can have long-term implications, because it's a long transit for you, maybe just for 2 months in Taurus, and then moving into Gemini, then retrograding back into Taurus. For Virgo ascendant natives, Mars has moved into your 9th house in the sign of Taurus, and this is an excellent placement for Mars, because Mars moving into the 9th house means creating opportunities for higher gains connected to money, connected to higher remunerations. So those people who have felt that they have been stagnant for some time, there has not been high income, this is a good opportunity for you to put the best foot forward. However, because Mars aspects the 12th house from the 9th house, as well as Rahu aspects the 12th house from the 8th house, so be very, very careful of what risks you take, because these can have long-term implications resulting in some challenges also for you. So be careful of how you look at opportunities, especially connected to money or making higher money, because Mars also aspects the 3rd house while placed in the 9th house, but Jupiter also aspects the 3rd house while placed in the 7th house. So for some people, especially those people who are contemplating a second relationship, this can come about. This is a good opportunity for you to be able to do that. And because Jupiter is placed in your 7th house, so for women, this is a very good opportunity for getting into a long-term stable relationship, especially if your first one has not come good, because Mars has moved into the 9th house, which is also connected to your second innings or second relationship or socially acknowledged second relationship. This is not connected to flings, but this is connected to a stable long-term relationship. And because Mars is also aspecting your 4th house while placed in the 9th house, but Rahu also aspects the 4th house, which means a good opportunity for you to establish your domestic home, especially in either foreign lands or with a person who will come from foreign lands, or you will meet the person from foreign lands, or who is not currently living in the country of your birth. So those opportunities also getting created for you. Or for some people, buying property or investing in property not in your country of birth but in some other place as well. So good time to make investments, good time to start new enterprises, good time to get into a relationship, good time to establish a domestic home, good time to also start something of your own, a new initiative, because Mars aspects the 3rd house. So something to do on social media, something to do with helping others in the upheavals, in the challenges and issues, and some short journeys may also come about, or at least for the next 2 months, opportunity or even a long-term journey, because Mars is placed in the 9th house and is also aspecting your 12th house. So even an international travel can come about for you, getting you very good results. For Libra ascendant natives, Mars will move into the sign of Taurus and will remain here for 2 months, and then it will move into Gemini in November, and after remaining in Gemini for roughly a month till mid-November, it's going to retrograde back into Taurus and will remain there till March, or at least mid-March. So this is an important transit where Mars has moved into Taurus for a couple of months, then they will move into Gemini and then back in retrograde motion. So the next 2 months are creating good opportunities for you, surely. However, the transit into Gemini for a month in between October and November is going to create opportunities for long distance travel, high education also. But the retrogression back into Taurus shows that any decision that you take now over the next 2 months, if you're not thought through, then Mars retrogression back into Taurus in November may force you to even take a backtrack on your steps earlier. So be a little careful what decision you make, especially connected to money, other people's money, wealth management, saving in money, or in taxation or audits, those kind of situations. However, for some of you, a good opportunity for gaining, especially connected to investments, especially connected to high remuneration also, because Mars also aspects your 11th house of wishes and desires coming true, and also 11th house of social connects or moving up the career ladder, moving into larger organizations. So moving into larger organizations and gaining in higher salaries is also this denotation. However, this is also important because Rahu also aspects the 11th house and it's placed in your 7th house, which means for some of you, especially Libra ascendant natives, a new opportunity of getting connected to people or making friends with people which can lend into or get into a long-term relationship with them also, even a marital kind of relationship with them with opposite gender, starting with becoming a friend through the social circle. So be careful who you get into a relationship because these may have long-term implications for you. However, surely a good opportunity of earning high money and getting your desires true, especially from moving into higher roles in larger organization. And because Mars placed in the 8th house also aspects its own sign in the 2nd house, while placed in the sign of Taurus, which is also the money sign, and aspecting the 2nd house of salary, income, remuneration. So a lot of people who are connected to areas of the 8th house, they may make a lot of money, or at least an opportunity is there created for you to make a lot of money in terms of gaining from areas of the 8th house like taxation, audits, manufacturing, from cinema, from IT. All these areas are getting highly activated. And because not only does Mars but even Jupiter aspect the 2nd house from the 6th house, so for people moving up the career ladder, moving up in service, overcoming competition is also seen here. But because Jupiter is retrograde, so be careful what decisions you make, because otherwise when Mars retrogrades back into Taurus in the month of November, you may have to backtrack some of your actions earlier. So be careful of what career decision that you take and what are the long-term implications of the decision before you take the decision. But this is surely an opportunity of getting connected to or moving up the career ladder or moving up into better placements, better roles also. So overall a good placement for Libra ascendant natives. Overall for wishes and desires coming true in remuneration, moving up the career ladder to be able to get a higher salary, higher income connected to your service as well. However, because the aspects of Rahu and Jupiter are also getting involved, for example, Mars aspects the 3rd house also of short journeys, self-enterprise and more hard work, which means you may have to put in a lot of hard work to be able to get ahead. But Rahu also aspects the 3rd house. So be careful where you invest your energies and how much hard work you put in, because some of the hard work may not give you the gains as you expect. So be careful of what decisions you make, because based on that a lot in the long term is at stake also. So overall a good placement for Libra ascendant natives, Mars moving in your 8th house where it has the natural sign energies of Scorpio as well. So Mars is one of the most comfortable planets in the 8th house. For Scorpio ascendant natives, Mars has moved into your 7th house in the money sign of Taurus. So here Mars is creating you opportunities of getting higher remuneration, higher monies through a partnership or getting into a relationship, a long-term committed relationship, which could kick off a time and a phase of higher remuneration, higher earning also for you. And this is important because Mars also rules the 6th of service and move into the 7th house, which means some of you can do very well connected to teamwork, connected to working on projects along with teams, especially if you have a team role placement. Even if you're a team leader, then you may get very good results from your team members who may back you, and this can be an overall good placement for everyone. But because Mars also aspects your 10th house, along with Rahu placed in your 6th house aspecting your 10th house, which means opportunities also created in the matters of service and moving up ahead in the career ladder and then working in a team to be able to get ahead. However, because Rahu also aspects the 10th house, so be careful of what career decisions you make here, especially when connected to bosses or supervisors, because if you are not on good terms with them and if there is a misunderstanding, this can have long-term impact for you. So play your cards very well, take your decision making very seriously, because this can make good gains for you long-term, especially connected to service. because Rahu is placed in the 6th house, aspecting your 10th house along with Mars, and Mars also rules the 6th house of service, which means for some of you, either going to foreign lands or moving up ahead in MNC companies or foreign companies or with foreign clients, and gaining from them is also seen. However, because Mars aspects your Lagna, the 1st house, and Jupiter also aspects your Lagna, the 1st house, while placed in the 5th house, so there could be an opportunity of a change in your career, because the 5th house is the 8th house from the 10th house and Jupiter is aspecting it. However, be careful because Jupiter is retrograde. So while there is an opportunity for moving ahead, elevation in society, elevation and respect in society in the next 2 months, and strong opportunities created there, but because Jupiter is retrograde, so any decision that you take now, you have to backtrack later, when in November Mars retrogrades back from Gemini into Taurus. So this is a good opportunity for moving ahead, for elevation in society, for getting a good name, good stature. Use it very well, because this is an advantageous transit for you. Because Mars also aspects the 2nd house, however Rahu also aspects the 2nd house from the 6th house. So here both Rahu's as well as Mars denotation will be affecting the 2nd house. But remember, Mars aspecting the 2nd house while Rahu also aspects the 2nd house means an opportunity created to earn more money from foreign lands, from foreign companies, from MNCs also. However, because Ketu is placed in your 12th house, so be careful, because wrong decisions can stagnate your growth, stagnate how you move ahead. So a calculated risk being taken, a tactical decision being taken can have long-term implications for you in moving up ahead through service, gaining more money, and also being able to do better in your career. For Sagittarius ascendant natives, Mars has transited into the 6th house, into the money sign of Taurus. This is a very good placement for Mars, because Mars is the Karaka of the 6th house. One of the planets which does very well in the 6th house is Mars, because Mars gives you the energy to be able to overcome competition, all sorts of inimical situations also. So for those people who are planning to sit in competitive exams or vie for a higher promotion growth, this is a good placement for you, because this could bring about a good opportunity to move ahead in terms of making money and through gains also. So for some people there could be good time to make investments and gain. However, be careful of what gains you are eyeing, because Mars moves into the 6th house, which is also the house of debts and loans. So be careful if you take any debts and loans. This is also important because Mars also aspects your 9th house of gains, but Rahu also aspects the 9th house of gains, which means if you get overzealous in trying to get ahead or make gains without thinking and rushing into challenges, then you may also be misled, because Rahu also aspects your 9th house. So as long as you are taking thought through decisions, this could be a good time of moving ahead, getting into higher qualification, getting into high universities, and then making a lot of gains from there. And why the foreign lands is also activated, because Mars not only aspects the 9th house of long distance travel, because the 9th house is also the house of long distance travel, but Mars also aspects the 12th house into its own sign, and Jupiter also aspects the 12th house while placed in the 4th house. But Jupiter is retrograde here, which means any movement that you try to move ahead, especially in foreign lands or moving into MNCs or vying for a higher elevation within your company, if you're working in an MNC, this is a very good opportunity. But be sure what decision you are taking, what negotiations you are making, because this can have long-term implications for you, because Mars will be retrograding back from Gemini into Taurus sign in November and remain there till March. So some of your decisions you may also have to backtrack to think about it accordingly. But because Mars also aspects the Lagna, but Rahu also aspects the Lagna, this is surely an excellent opportunity of getting ahead, having a high stature, gaining from foreign lands, gaining from working in foreign companies, from investments, investing in property. All these denotations are coming about. But be careful of your health, because overindulging in food can relate or create some health challenges for you related to your visceral organs. So be careful. For Capricorn ascendant natives, Mars has just transited into the money sign of Taurus, but into the 5th house. Mars is very, very strong in the 5th house, and this is a strong placement for you to make a lot of gains. One reason that you can make a lot of gains is because the 5th house is the house of gains, is the house of investments also, and a career change also, because the 5th house is the 8th house from the 10th house. So it's a good opportunity. But because Ketu is placed in the 10th house, so be careful of what decisions you are making or career change decisions you are making, because these could have long-term impact. Because Mars is moved into the money sign of Taurus now, but is going to move into Gemini in October, but it will retrograde back into Taurus in November and remain there till March. So this is a time for you to contemplate what decisions you are making, especially when connected to career change. However, excellent time for you to make investments related to real estate or related to stock market, but with due diligence. This is also important because Mars aspects the 8th house of upheavals, obstacle, challenges, but even Rahu aspects that house. So if you are not careful, then you may be brought about some notices related to taxations, insurance claims and all that. However, good time to also gain it from inheritance, gain also from the areas of the 8th house related to IT industry, the performing arts. All these areas are activated for people because Mars is in the 5th house of performing arts and aspecting the 8th house of the virtual world, especially because Rahu also aspects it. So very good time for artistic performers. Because Mars also aspects the 11th house and its own sign, but Jupiter is also aspecting the 11th house and it's with its 9th aspect. So it's an excellent placement for some wishes and desires coming true, especially from money or investments or in your romance. Somebody who you like may say yes to you, or you may get into a long-term stable relationship also for some of you. For some of you, you may also take a decision to fructify your relationship and take the relationship forward, because Jupiter is also aspecting your 7th house and Mars is aspecting your 11th house of wishes and desires coming through. So it's an excellent placement to make those decisions. But because Mars is also aspecting your 12th house, but Rahu is also aspecting your 12th house while placed in the 4th house. So for some of you, not only a career change, but also a career change along with residence change, maybe to foreign lands or moving into a different city, very different city from where you are born or where you have been brought up. So that may also create opportunities for you, or starting to work with foreign companies or starting to work with foreign clients. Very strong opportunity. For those people who are into consulting work or working on online media, for them also an excellent opportunity, because both Mars as well as Rahu are aspecting your 12th house, but in the sign of Sagittarius, whose ruler Jupiter is placed in the 3rd house of self-enterprise and online media. For Aquarius ascendant natives, Mars has moved into the 4th house, into the money sign of Taurus, and will remain here for 2 months. However, you need to be careful, because from the money sign of Taurus, Mars will move into the Gemini sign in October and then retrograde back into Taurus in November and remain there till March. So this is overall a long transit for you, but the next 2 months where Mars will be in direct motion in Taurus, this is a very good placement for you. And because Mars is moved into the 4th house, so gaining from real estate, gaining at home, establishing a domestic home, purchasing equipment. Some of you may even purchase a vehicle, some of you may purchase some conveniences, daily conveniences, maybe electronics. So overall very good placement. Also to gain from real estate, because Mars is moved into the money sign of Taurus, into the 4th house of real estate, and Mars is the Karaka of real estate. For some of you, a decision to change your residence, move into a new residence, invest in your residence can also bring about good gains. However, because Mars aspects the 7th house, some of you may establish your domestic home, because of which a residence change may come about. But because Rahu also aspects your 7th house, so be careful of who you are getting into a long-term committed relationship, because Rahu is also playing its cards here while placed in the Mool Trikona sign of Mars. So you need to look at it holistically, because those kind of results may also come about, and then later on you may have to backtrack your decisions when Mars retrogrades back into Taurus in November. So be careful of what decisions you make, especially saying yes to a proposal or getting into a long-term committed relationship, or even getting into a marital contract or fructifying the relationship, because this has long-term implications, but surely gain-making implications if the person is the right person. Because Mars also aspects the 10th house in its own sign of Scorpio. However, Jupiter also aspects that house, so very good opportunity of gaining, especially for those people who are connected to real estate industries, connected to the construction industries, connected to anything related to home improvement, home decor, daily conveniences. Any people who are working in those industries, an excellent period for moving ahead, because Jupiter is also aspecting and creating opportunities for moving ahead. However, be careful of what career decisions you make, because Jupiter is retrograde here while placed in the second house of income and saving. So while you make a career change, be careful that the company is financially viable, otherwise your money can get stuck, money can get stagnant, or opportunity of high growth may come, but the money improvement may not be much. So be careful of what documents you're signing, be careful of looking into what is the salary that you're taking home rather than what is shown on paper, because these may sometimes not match. Because Mars also aspects the 11th house of your wishes and desires coming true, so very good placement for you for some of your wishes and desires coming true, increasing your social network, gaining from your social network. However, because Rahu also aspects the 11th house, were placed in the 3rd house, but Mars own multi-corner sign of Aries, so this means while gains may be high, while your social network may also increase, but be careful of who you make or take as very good friends or get into a romantic relationship with, because this can have long-term implications for you. And later on you may have to backtrack your decision when Mars retrogrades back into Taurus in November. So take care of who you become friends with or who you hang around with, because that can have long-term implications for you. But if it's the right decision, this is an excellent placement really to move ahead. So make your decisions accordingly. For Pisces ascendant natives, Mars has transited into your 3rd house, into the money sign of Taurus, will remain here till October. However, Mars will transit in October into the Gemini sign and remain there till November, but in November it will retrograde back into the Taurus sign and remain there till March next year. So this is an important placement for you, where Mars has gone direct for 2 months, will remain in Gemini then for a month, then retrograde back for roughly over 4 months in Taurus sign. So decision that you take now over the next 2 months can have long-term impact for you, which may not only run into months but even years. So make your decisions accordingly, especially connected to money, especially connected to hard work, because Mars in the 3rd house means higher hard work is important, which may also get higher gains for you, but be a little careful of where you make hard work or where you put in your effort, because Mars with its 4th aspect is aspecting the 6th house of service. Mars is the Karaka of the 6th house, so Mars can give you very good results. But because Rahu also aspects your 6th house of service, so for some of you, because Rahu is placed in the 2nd house of remuneration, savings, higher income, salary, so Rahu is creating your opportunity to get gains from foreign companies, foreign lands, foreign clients, and aspecting the 6th house of service, as well as Mars is aspecting the 6th house of service, but Rahu is placed in Mars multi-corner sign. So good opportunity of going ahead, moving over competition, pushing the competition to the side track, and you moving ahead. However, this can be better for those people who are getting connected to foreign lands or foreign clients, or if you are working in Indian, or if you are working in a domestic company within your country, then there could be an opportunity for higher growth, higher service related income that may also come to you. However, there could be a catch of what is the final decision that you're making. So be careful of what is the documentation that you're entering into, especially connected to money, because Rahu is placed in the 2nd house of income and earnings. But Mars also aspects the 9th house of higher gains, and Jupiter also aspects the 9th house, and Jupiter also is the Karak of the 9th house. So this is an opportunity of very high gains connected to service, connected to money, connected to investments as well. However, because Jupiter is retrograde, so be careful where you end up making those investments, what kind of decision that you make, especially when you're looking for or higher qualifications. Some of you may want to move into higher qualifications or sign up for higher qualifications, higher degrees. So while this can be an excellent move, but be careful of what decision that you make, because Jupiter being retrograde and aspecting, so some of the decisions you'll have to backtrack when Mars retrogrades back into Taurus in November. So be careful, but once you take the decision, and if you are due diligent, this can be an excellent move ahead for you, both in terms of long distance travel as well as to get into foreign universities. Mars also aspects your 10th house of career, but Rahu also aspects your 10th house of career while placed in the 2nd house of higher income and higher earnings. So both Mars and Rahu are creating a very good opportunity for you to move up ahead, to overcome competition, because Mars also aspects the 6th house, and then gaining high gains in your career, in your work, because Jupiter also rules your 10th house and gone into the Lagna. So a time to move ahead, a time to increase your status in society, your stature in society and gains. But again, be careful of what you sign up, because these can have long-term implications for you. So overall, a very, very fantastic placement for Pisces ascendant natives when Mars has now just transited into the money sign of Taurus. So friends, with Mars, you cannot take a decision lightly. You can't rush into challenges or decision making without thinking, because Mars is moved into Taurus only for 2 months till mid-October. It is going to retrograde back into Taurus after moving into Gemini for a month. From October to November it will go into Gemini, but retrograde back in the month of November in the money sign of Taurus and remain there till March. So any decision that you make now has long-term implications for you. So one, you don't need to rush into something without thinking, but decision that you take now can have long-term implications and usually very good gains coming for most of the zodiac signs. So friends, now that we have talked about Mars transit into Taurus over the next 2 months and then transiting into Gemini and then retrograding back into Taurus, it has long-term implications for all of you. So look at the planetary placements that you have in your respective horoscope, because those flavors will also play, those flavors will also impact what kind of gains you can make from this transit of Mars moving into Taurus. So friends, like this video, share this video, and if you're looking for a personal consultation from me, please reach out to me, the link given below. Till some other time with some other video, this is your friend, astrologer and guide Irfan signing off.